What's shaking?
Oh, everything, always. All right, we're back on live for another week here, man. It feels like it's been forever for me since I was stranded in Idaho last time we did the show.
You were stranded.
Stranded
It was a good show, too. Des was really cool. He was a fine young fella.
Fine young man he was. Yeah, Eddie Money's kid. How cool was
Yeah,
that, man?
it was pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Absolutely. So we've got a great guest tonight. I see him down here in the waiting room here. He's made it with us this evening. We've got Comeau joining us tonight, and big special prayer and shout out to Jack for getting out there, making some shows, having some fun, right?
Yeah, rocking the world.
Right, absolutely, brother. All right, let's bring Andre in. You want to?
Yeah, sure.
Let's do it. What's happening, brother?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good. How you doing?
All right, thanks.
Right
Excellent.
on, right on. So we didn't get a chance to talk before going live, man. It's good to see you. Thanks for coming and doing our show, and thanks, a big shout out to Jody Best for hooking us up with you. We appreciate Jody every day.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So now I know a lot of people know you from the real world situation, but there's a whole lot of catalog that comes behind you, man. So if you haven't seen our show, we try to take it back to the beginnings and kind of bring people up to current day.
Great.
Go all the way back to Detroit, Michigan, and coming up in Detroit, and the influences and things that made you who you are, my friend.
Great. Happy to talk about it.
Right on. So you were born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. I won't say the year because I don't do that to people, but
I'm a product of the 70s.
Yeah, buddy. So
Gen X, baby.
So we survived being a real person.
Well, yeah, I guess that's a way to see it. Yeah.
Yeah, riding in backs of trucks, drinking out of garden hoses, no seatbelts. You know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
Smoking like a freight train in the front seat with the windows up. You know,
raised like an animal. It's
big
true.
wheel.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about that. Was there a lot of musical influence at home? Were mom and dad into the scene?
Well, my a huge musical upbringing in that my mom's 7 brothers and sisters had a family band that were signed to Capitol Records. And they were on all of the variety shows of the day, Ed Sullivan, David Frost, Mike Douglas. Her family, her maiden name is Primo, the Primo family, were a very popular Detroit-based family group, which was very much in vogue at the time. I mean, they really don't have that much anymore, but I'm sure you've heard of the Osmonds and the Jackson 5 and all of these bands. Well, my mom's side of her family, they were another one of those kinds of bands. And so I grew up on tour for the very first years of my life. Those are my early memories, are being on tour with, opening up for much larger acts of the day, the Doris Days of the world, Robert Goulet, that kind of it wasn't rock and roll, but it was influenced by the counterculture of the day. So they were doing like sort of jazzier versions of Beatles songs and Creedence Clearwater songs. I don't know if you've ever seen any of the Ed Sullivan reruns, but a lot of those bands were doing, sort of updated, sort of hybrid versions of popular songs of the day. And certainly my mom's band family was doing something very similar.
Was it called Primo? Was it Primo? Was that the name of it?
Yeah, Primo, the Primo family. And the album on Capitol, they were called the Primo People.
Oh, wow.
And you can find it online. You can Google it and see all my aunts and uncles, the album cover. It's, they're dressed in like these white and red sort of jumpsuits.
Nice. What was your mom's position in the band? What was
they were all vocalists. They would do this elaborate 7-8 part harmony. And they all played instruments. it was mostly a vocal arrangement sort of band. The guys, my uncles, they held down the most of the main instrumentation with the bass and the drums and guitar, but they all did play a little bit of I think my mom played a little bit of banjo, actually.
Nice.
Now, what were they called on the label?
Primo People.
Primo People.
All right, I'm looking them up here. I'm on a different.
Yeah, it's funny. We got the masters, the mastered tapes, which my uncle, he went and transferred them, the 24-track master tape, which actually I don't even, I think it was 16 track actually, not 24, but transferred it to Pro Tools, and I got to hear the because the studio musicians that played on that. There it is. Good, very good. Yes.
Oh yeah, check that out, man.
Isn't that great? Look at you. Yeah, those are all my aunts and uncles.
Wow.
Which one's mom here? Which
mom is standing in the back. She's the oldest daughter. Yep.
This is mom here.
Yep.
Dad? Or is it uncles?
Dad's off the stage. He's not.
He was not allowed in the band.
Yeah.
Tour manager.
Yeah. So that was my upbringing, and that's I consider myself very lucky to have sort of grown up in that environment, and having music encouraged in that way. It wasn't a matter of, do you want to learn an instrument? It was, what instruments are you going to learn? It was lessons, and it was requirement. It was not a elective. It was a requirement.
Absolutely. I can imagine it. Coming from that kind of a background, man. So you got to be backstage with some of the biggest names in culture.
Yeah. It's funny, as I was saying that we singled out some of those musical tracks. The players on that album, they had a lot of the Wrecking Crew, and cool. And a lot of these amazing musicians, Carol Kay on bass and Glenn Campbell on guitar. I was lucky enough to, for a time, and I'm jumping forward many, many years, in my folk band, I was playing with Glenn Campbell's daughter. She was in my band for a spell, and we would go over, and I would go over there and rehearse with her occasionally, and Glenn would come down and occasionally jam with us. And what an honor it was to play with a absolute legend, Glenn Campbell. Even in his diminished capabilities with Parkinson's, he could still rip on guitar. It did not affect his playing at all. If anything, he was much more fluid with a guitar in his hand than he was trying to hold a conversation, because it's that whole left brain, right brain thing. He could still rip on guitar, and it was really just one of the great honors of my life to play with him and have him get all excited about the fact that I knew a John Denver track, or that we could just jam in his living room like that, and he was getting very excited about it. So it's funny.
That's so cool, man. You would think that with Parkinson's, the motor skills would be more difficult than the verbal skills.
In fairness, it may not have even been Parkinson's as much. It was just a dementia. It would probably. I was not part of the the medical diagnosis. So it probably wasn't Parkinson's as much as it was just a dementia. General.
Yeah, I remember my grandfather setting me down for an episode of The Odd Couple, where Roy Clark sat down and shredded. And you
it's amazing.
Both of their faces like
those guys. Nashville players are so. Even the guys that you don't think of automatically that they're going to be, impressive. The Keith Urbans of the world, dude, is an amazing guitar player. Like they start at a place that is way beyond your pop rock artist, because their bass line is like here, like that's where they start, and they only get better from there. Right. So even the guys that are like you consider like lightweights or poofs, they're amazing. They start at a much higher place than your average rock and roll or pop, certainly pop place. It's their standards are very high in Nashville.
Absolutely.
And Roy Clark was an amazing guitar player, much like Glenn Campbell. He was, Roy was banjo as well. Just amazing stuff.
Yes. Glenn Campbell, man, incredible. Paisley, some of the Nashville guitarists that you were just talking about, Paisley's a beast. I mean, that guy's phenomenal.
Phenomenal. And that's the thing, like they all are the people that you don't expect. You're just like, okay, well, you're cute and you have this like sort of pop country hit. You think it's going to be fluff. You scratch the surface and you find out that they are really talented. And that's the thing. Like they just start at a place that's they keep the bar very high, in spite of the fact that some of the songs are stupid as hell.
I mean, Jerry Reed, obviously, Albert Lee. Yeah, I mean, all those cats from back, are just ripping. Albert Lee's one of my favorites. So is Jerry Reed, really.
Yeah, great. He's found him down. I tried to watch Smokey and the Bandit recently for the first time since I was a kid. Oh my God, is that an asinine movie? Oh, that movie's so asinine. It's so stupid.
It's easy, but it's iconic.
Oh yeah, it's great in that way. But boy, is it dumb.
It really is. Most of those, if you try to go back and watch some of those movies from that era, though, most of them are pretty hokey, man.
Well, actually, much to the contrary, I think a lot of serious films from the 70s. I'm a big fan of 70s films like The Godfather and they really perfected film in that era. I like the pacing of those films. So much slower. Everything sort of is revealed in a much slower pace, and nothing is spelled out the way that things are spelled out, and spoon-fed to today's audiences. And I think that but film is a much different medium than television. Certainly, the television of the 70s is, which was frankly much closer to Smokey and the Bandit, was much more like a TV sort of TV entertainment rather than like a serious 70s film. As certainly not a not something Stanley Kubrick would have ever been involved in.
I love going back and watching the effects and without computers and without
absolutely.
And watching how they pulled some of that stuff off, and sometimes it gets pretty hokey, and sometimes it's pretty brilliant. But
it's amazing. I always enjoy watching the practical effects of Planet of the Apes or the original Star Wars before they went and CG'd that movie to hell, and or 2001: A Space Odyssey, my favorite movie of all time. I mean, those effects are brilliant, and it's so imaginative, and they really changed the landscape of what people believed could be done. And now you watch a film and it's all CG'd to hell. I can't even watch certain films that when they came out, I may have been impressed with them in the early 2000s, late 90s of the CG. Now I see it and it's like I cringe. I just see all this, cartoony sort of CG, and I'm just like, give me a face mask and some acting to make me believe it. I don't want to see a cartoon. If I want to see a cartoon, I'll watch The Simpsons.
Right. Oh, see, I'm gonna go back to the '70s and watch the Flintstones, brother. So we're aging ourselves now.
Now, what about the Dirty Harry? All the Dirty Harry stuff, right?
Yeah.
Love Clint Eastwood. I just watched The Unforgiven a couple nights ago for the first time in a few years. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I just such a great movie.
Slow, but what a great movie. I mean,
it's so great.
Yeah.
So great. Everyone in it's great. And he really it's a beautiful film. It's really one of his best.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Scariest movie of the '70s.
Scariest
movie from the '70s.
Well, I mean, I suppose you could say, the Exorcist but I'm gonna go off and say, you know what? Alien. 1979. That movie holds up. That is, I think that, I'm not a believer in the afterlife. I'm not a believer. I'm an atheist. So I don't put much into the good and evil. I believe men are good and evil. I don't believe in a supernatural good or evil. I believe that men are good or evil. But Alien, that holds up, and that is still a very suspenseful, very scary movie.
There you go. I'm going to say Exorcist, man. That thing scarred me for life.
Yeah.
Scarred me for life.
I mean, I went to Catholic school in elementary school, so I should be affected by that stuff. But I think it really just, I think of it and I'm like, I think people just need to get a grip and sort of,
I don't know. I think my first wife was actually exactly who she was in that movie. No, I can't say that.
Linda Blair.
Yeah. We're going to need an old priest and a young priest.
Reagan was the character's name, right? Reagan.
We are many. Yeah. All right. So, everybody else is saying Cold Blood. Soylent Green. That was a pretty creepy.
Soylent Green. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that's some creepy stuff there.
Good one.
Right, so when did you first start getting musically inclined on your own? Were you in a band?
Sure. Yeah. Well, all through grade school and junior high school and high school, I played with what eventually became Rain Dance, which was my band out of high school and on the Real World. Dean Fertitta and I went to school together, and Dean was the other guitar player singer in Rain Dance, who's gone on to, his own successful musical career. I don't know if you guys know Dean. He's a member of the Queens of the Stone Age and the Dead Weather, and he and I have known each other since the 4th grade and have played in bands together since then. I mean, literally, I was there in the 7th grade when Dean got his first electric guitar, and we started playing in bands together at that time. And they were just cover bands. We would learn Kiss and Ozzy Osbourne and AC/DC songs and that got a little more serious through high school. We started writing songs, and then out of high school, we with our drummer, who was also in Rain Dance, Bob Nick. We put a little more serious band together, which turned into Rain Dance. Played the Detroit music scene for about 2 years out of high school, and then moved to New York, the Metro New York area. At which point I got cast for the first season of Real World, and within the first year that I lived in the New York area, and a year to the day that we moved. That's a funny shot. That was at the Video Music Awards in 1992 or 90. Yeah, I believe that was the 1993 or 92 Video Music Awards in Los Angeles.
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Youngster. So Real World comes knocking.
Yep. Yep. How did
that connection get made?
Well, so my older sister also lived in New York. She worked for EMI Records, and the casting director for Real World was going around to where young people worked and congregated, record companies, magazines. I suppose if they were doing it now, they'd probably be going to tech companies. Right. So they were going around to where young people were sort of working, and one of my sister's friends recommended me to the casting director. There happened to be a flyer, because we used to use the office supplies, after hours, and make posters on their color printers, and so there was a big poster of one of our shows, and she said, "What about this guy? That's Colette's brother." Colette is my sister, and they were like, "Oh yeah, that looks good. Let's you think you'd be interested?" And because I was a little younger than a lot of the, I was 20 years old at the time, and so they called me and asked me if I wanted to come down and meet with the producers to possibly participate in a documentary style television show, which would feature my life and my band. And I said, of course, on MTV, absolutely. So I went to meet with the producers and the casting department, and then met again with them. They, on the second meeting, they asked me to put together a short video of my life and sort of my friends and sort of the wackiness that goes on in my life, which I was happy to do. And I think that video pretty much clinched it. Mm-hmm. So by the third meeting, I think I had it in the bag. And it's funny because I knew that I had the show, that I was picked before they told me, because I had another friend that was doing something for MTV, and I'm not exactly sure what she was doing for them, but she got a notice of a new style of television show that they were putting out, and they had a brief synopsis of the characters, and one of the characters was named Andre and was a long-haired musician in a rock band. And I've kind of figured, well, that's probably me. I mean, it'd be quite a coincidence to have a couple of guys named Andre with long hair and rock band in a rock band. But so when they told me, I was like, I acted surprised and I acted thrilled, but I kind of knew that I had the gig before I walked in. I found out like the weekend prior, so I was just like, ooh, really excited.
How cool is that, man? How weird was that?
I mean, it was bizarre, and it's still bizarre because we really were the first modern day reality show. We had no idea that it was going to change entertainment as we know it. We had no idea. We had absolutely no perception of what was going to happen to the cultural landscape, to the really had no clue that it would, at the time in 1992, MTV would air shows, and it may air once or twice, and then it was gone.
Right.
Like you'd never see it again. I mean, I don't know if you remember the game show Remote Control. I have a pretty good memory of, so Remote Control.
Absolutely.
Do you ever see those reruns ever?
Nope.
Of course not. And so that's how I figured it was going to be. But here it is, it's still airing. It's currently airing right now on the Paramount streaming platform. It airs across the world in different countries. It's a social experiment. And that is what we did. We were totally unaware of the cultural impact that it would have. and frankly, the lasting power that it has. None of us had any idea. Eric, to his credit, Eric Nies of The Grind fame, Eric knew that it was going to be big, and he would tell us, this thing's going to be huge. But I think that, at the time I was like, oh, you're just being, egotistical, which he was incredibly egotistical at the time, and you just think that everyone just is going to love you so much that it's going to be the biggest thing since sliced bread. So you're just being you. But no, he was absolutely right. And it was a massive success. And it literally changed entertainment, as we know it, for better or worse. I mean, I'm not necessarily, flying the flag of how great is it, because it has had its drawbacks as well. I mean, I wouldn't say that, it's all good. The reality transformation of entertainment has its drawbacks. I mean, one could argue that there would not have been the previous administration without reality television, good or bad. and that is, I mean, that's a fact. That's not, that's just, it's one of those things. It's crazy to be a part of this movement and one, that I had such an early place in.
Right. Absolutely.
So I got a couple questions, but before that, I do want to find out what happened to the Primo people. How did that end? I got to kind of know how that full,
Sure. They're all still family,
right.
Right. So the capital. So they were still a band throughout, probably until from the early to mid 60s all the way to the mid 70s. At which point, the older members of the family left to start their own family. They didn't want to be on the road so much. They, the group began to splinter, as all bands do eventually, most anyways. And so, I think that the band just sort of tapered off, because of personal interests and everyone wanted to do their own thing, wanted to get away from their brothers and sisters, so that
they do shows still. Do they get together and sing at all? Or
it's funny. They do occasionally. Now, they're spread out across the country, but occasionally, whenever there's a family function, a wedding, or some sort of joyous event, they'll try to find any reason to get on stage and to do, to sing and do those kinds of things. So yes, they, as a matter of fact, I put my mom's sisters sang backup on one of my tracks in my folk band, the River Rouge track off of Dark Horse Running. They were in town here in Los Angeles for something, and I was like, okay, well, you're here. I'm going to use you because I'm in the middle of recording this record. Come on in. We'll do, and unfortunately the fidelity wasn't great. So I had to really sort of transform the track from being, because they have these beautiful voices that are, I would have loved to have featured them, but the fidelity of the track wasn't so great. So I had to compress it and turn it into sort of a radio, like an old AM radio sounding background vocal. It still works and it's cool. But I don't think I really captured their essence on that track. But I'm getting off onto this nerdy tangent here. So yes, to answer your question, they do get together and perform, at functions, and occasionally there's they'll put a sort of a concert together, which is not something that's open to the public, but
right.
They'll put their we'll get a sound system and they get to really open it up in that way.
Cool. So 2 questions I have then. If you say the real world's basically like in syndication, do you get residuals from that? And the other question is, was how much of it was scripted?
Okay. No, on the residuals. Not, as I was saying, none of us expected it to be the success that it was, and even if we did, we were not in any sort of, at 20 years old, we were in no position, just starting our careers, to be demanding anything of this television production company. So our contract was cut and dry, locked down. They owned everything. We were lucky. I was lucky that I didn't walk away from it with them owning the songs that I wrote. You know what I mean? Because literally, I'm sure that the attorneys could have written that in, and I would have not been none the wiser. And the other question you asked was,
was it scripted? How much was scripted?
Right.
To some degree.
Yeah, none of it was scripted. Absolutely zero.
Wow.
And this is early on in the production, the producers tried to interfere with the natural progression of things, and it always backfired on them. And they always scrapped that plot line, for lack of a better word. It always backfired on them in the worst way. So none of that made it to it all wound up on the editing room floor. None of that made it to the final cut. Though I'm thinking of 2 instances where they tried to interfere and create drama that wasn't organically, part of our interaction. And they learned real quickly that we were not going to allow them to stick their nose into our business. And so they, from that point on, they never tried to interfere with us. Now, I can't really speak for other seasons because I honestly don't know, but I assume just in that how they dealt with us, that's probably how it is with all of the seasons, that we really set the template for how it would be run in the future as well. I think that they probably learned their lesson in that, when they did try to interfere, there was one instance where it backfired so bad that one of the cast members nearly walked off the show. So I think that they really learned their lesson and realized the error in their thinking in doing so.
So you did one. How many seasons did you do? Was it just
the first season? One season, 13 episodes, 14 episodes, because there was the original 13 episodes. Then the first episode of season 2 was us being brought back together talking about the first season. And so we did 14 episodes of that with my cast.
Now, was that like a blur? That whole thing went fast kind of thing? Usually
it went so fast. If you think about any random 3 months of your when you were 20 years old, think of any random 3 months of your 20s. And think about how fast that goes. That's
Yeah.
exactly how this is in my memory. It is such a, I mean, it was very monumental. And it wasn't something that, that I felt was sort of, it wasn't forgettable in any way, but it was, at the time, it felt like it was just going to be a footnote in a, to me. And yet, here we are. And it's gone on to so many seasons. And then they brought us back for a 30-year reunion. And I mean, it's just, it goes on and on and on now.
Wow. So do you keep in touch with the other people? Sure,
we keep in touch. Yes. We've had a running text thread for many years. Oh, cool. And we kind of share sort of what things that are important. If I had a daughter, in the last few years, and so that kind of thing. I would share pictures, and when someone has an event or something that they want to share with, Kevin released another book, so he'll share it with us and that kind of thing. So yeah, that's the kind of way that we kept in touch mostly. I mean, I live in Los Angeles, and that's a bit of a destination city, so often people will visit LA for one reason or another, and when they do, I always try to meet up with them, have dinner, drinks, coffee, whatever it might be. Also I travel for work and music still. So when I'm in New York, I call up Heather or Kevin because they're still in the New York area, and I try to meet up with them while I'm in town as well.
Cool. Very cool.
Oh, man. How cool is that? So moving on from the real world had to be kind of difficult, I would say.
Yeah. No, it was very difficult. It was, I had a real identity crisis there for a time in the mid '90s. I went a little crazy. I that scene in Wes Anderson's Tannenbaums where dude sits there in the mirror and cuts all his hair off in a fit of absolute insanity right before he tries to kill himself. Yeah, I did that. I did that exact same thing. Yep. It was like an Elliott Smith song. I mean, I was just sitting there in the mirror, just in a fit of like identity crisis rage, cutting my hair off, trying to change everything that I could, that it was within my ability to sort of take back my identity. And so, yeah, it was a difficult, and, my band at the time, they were very unhappy with how it all played out, and I was getting grief from them. And that was, I'll admit to, that's depression. Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Dr. So, I think that I put too much in that. It was a real identity crisis there for a time, and it was difficult to grapple with that level of fame and exposure. Because fame without wealth is something that I don't think that a lot of people really have a lot of experience with, and so it was very difficult to go back to being normal. I remember having to wait tables and do like menial labor jobs, moving fucking furniture and stuff like that, just to make bills for a time, and yet I would come home and there I was on TV, and this multinational corporation's making millions of dollars on my image, and I'm sitting here, my stomach is rumbling, and I'm so it was it was difficult, but again, I don't think anybody really was prepared for the for that level of success and the fame that followed.
So it was filmed in New York, right? So
yeah.
Then when did you move to Los Angeles?
I moved to Los Angeles in '97.
Okay, so a few years following.
Yeah. So the show shot in '92. I'm from, as we mentioned, Detroit. And so I moved back to Detroit in 95, I guess, 96. Lived there for a year or so. Raindance broke up in '97 after we recorded our third record. And I moved out to LA the very next month. I moved to Los Angeles and have been here ever since.
Okay.
Wow.
Cool.
What a transition, man. I'm really kind of stuck on the fame without the fortune, and because that thing was huge, man. I mean, it was monstrous. I can remember all my friends, dude, like, man, we got to go watch The Real World, but The Real World's on. So that had to have been a very hard transition. I'm glad you made it through it the way you have, man.
Thanks. Yeah, it was. It is what it is. It's. I wouldn't change anything, other than if I could have. I suppose if I could have told given myself some advice, it would have been to just maybe just to rely on myself more than anyone else. And because I find that, at the time, I think I was relying on too many external things to sort of keep me even keeled. And I really should have been relying internally. But that's the kind of thing that one normally just gets with, age and, the wisdom that comes with just growing up. I don't know a lot of 20, 22, 23-year-olds that are 20 men, I'm talking about, that have any sort of level of maturity. And I certainly did not, so I think that,
it comes much later.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that, it was a, it was a transition, no doubt about it.
Right. So they want to know, they're asking questions. Who's your favorite Real World co-star? All of them, right?
Yeah, I have no favorites. It's like saying,
right.
Who's your favorite sibling?
Right. They're all my favorites. All right. We have somebody that says, what was your biggest victory in life so far? And what is your biggest regret?
Well, I would say my biggest victory is the, raising of my daughter. I love her. I can't even express how great it is. And, I'm just so, I fought the idea for so long. I did not think it was my path. I did not ever intend to be a dad, but now I can't imagine life without it. So I'm just, the happiest dad there is. So I'm going to say that that's my, biggest victory. As far as the other thing, what was it? Disappointment?
Biggest regret.
Biggest regret? Probably, as I said earlier, not relying on myself, not really digging deep earlier. I would say that, I was not much of a songwriter in Raindance. I would attempt, but the other guys were much more advanced in their songwriting capabilities. So I kind of let them run with the ball. And I was a collaborator. It's not like I couldn't, and I was a co-writer, but I could not finish my own songs. And I did, but they weren't great. and I didn't work on it to the point that I needed to for them to become really good. So I would say that's probably my biggest regret, is not relying on myself to really be a self-sufficient artist earlier, because now I can't imagine. I write my songs completely, and I don't. It's not that I don't want to collaborate, but it's not really what I do. So I'm a singer songwriter and a solo artist. So probably that would say that's one of my regrets, is not starting that cycle sooner. It wasn't until my mid-20s. It wasn't until my mid-20s that I feel that I wrote a good song. I wrote a lot of songs before then, but a good one, probably my mid-20s. And that could have been much earlier.
Hard to regret something, or regret not doing something that you may not have had the tools to do at the time. So, I mean,
that's right.
That's just it. So you've got a new release, Clean Break.
Yeah.
That is hit 9/8/21. Let's talk about that, brother.
Yeah, well, it's exciting. I just the single's out. The album is going to come out. Actually, we had a bit of a snag, so the album will be out in what is it? A week from Friday. A week from Friday is when the album will be out. And it's exciting. It's we released my band. We released an EP last year in 2020. We had originally scheduled a May release, and of course, COVID dashed that. And so we held off on releasing it. Actually, it might have even been originally. It might have been slated for a March release. And I think that's right, because it was originally slated for March, and I held on to it thinking that, COVID, with the hopes that COVID would sort of blow over and be done with it. And it wasn't until June or July that we realized this ain't going anywhere. And so I put it out because I just wanted to get it out so that I could move on. And obviously we were hopeful that we could, tour behind it and play shows and promote it and this and that. Everything got dashed. I caught COVID. It was a nightmare. So it was last year was difficult. But what I ended up doing is just going right back into the studio at the end of the year. Probably started in pre-production for what turned out to be the Clean Break album. We started that in September. And then, and there was no sense of urgency whatsoever, because we were just like, tinkering around with new songs. And like I said, the sense of urgency wasn't there until in December. Bunham Murray, the production company that does The Real World, reached out to me talking about a reunion show that was, that they were planning on shooting. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I want to put something out, get something ready for the following year.
Sure.
And so we started to take it a little more seriously. COVID was difficult, though. We had, all of my band members had it at one time or another, and it would derail us for weeks on end. So it wasn't until here it is September, and it's still not out yet. I mean, we're done with it finally. But it was it was difficult to wrangle everything, with the current situation. Yeah, it's exciting, and it's a great record. I'm very excited about it, very proud of it. We shot the video for the single Clean Break. We're going to be shooting another video for the follow-up, which is Want You to Hurt. And I'll hope to have that out in October. We'll see where that goes. I know that my booking agent is planning on doing a Midwestern run in November. Knock on wood, that we're going to be able to see that through, because I absolutely want to be playing the Midwest, and want to make it to the East Coast, and all of the places that I used to frequent so much. And we just did our first show back in a couple years. Gee whiz. We played our album release show on the 9th at the Viper Room here in Los Angeles, and it was awesome. I've been posting videos of the show to my artist page and my Instagram page, so if you want to check it out, please go to my artist page, Andre Comeau Music, or the Instagram, also Andre Comeau Music, I believe. You'll see some performances. I think 2 are up now. I think there'll be a total of 5 or 6 that are going to eventually be posted. And it's great. I'm super excited about it, and I can't wait to have a dozen shows under our belt, or 2-3 dozen shows where we can really relax on stage and get into a much deeper groove.
Right. Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. There's some debate going on over here about what kind of car you had first. There's some people saying your first car might have been a Firebird or a Camaro. I've seen a couple others. What was your first car you owned?
A Mustang.
Mustang.
Ford Mustang. Yeah.
What year?
My dad worked for Ford. So yes, my first car was a Ford Mustang.
You guys should have known that coming out of Detroit. Come on.
Yeah,
now.
That's right.
So,
yeah,
man, I appreciate you so much coming on and spending some time with us. I would like to stay in touch with you, maybe do some radio stuff with you, get you on the air here, do some on calls, and give some rotations and see what we can't work out.
Great.
And I appreciate you so much, my brother.
Yeah, the pleasure was mine.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jody Best, for making this connection.
All right.
Robbie,
thanks, guys.
Robbie,
something else?
I know when.
What's that?
Oh, I thought I heard something. I thought you were asking me a question.
You can tell when Robbie enjoys himself, because he just sits there and smiles and nods because he's really into the story. So
just listening and learning.
Right.
I like the Les Pauls you got back there. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Les Pauls, some Tellys. I got a bunch of stuff laying around. It's just handy.
I just got a Murphy's Lab 57 reissue. I'm a huge fan.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Yes. My engineering room here. On the other side, I got all the speakers and monitors and stuff over here, and all the outboard gear and guitars where I can grab them when I need them.
Yeah.
And amp heads. There's 4 of them right here. Speaker in the other room.
Nice. I'm a box guy myself, but
cool.
I do love the Marshalls as well.
We've got Marshalls and Fenders, and then I've got the Kemper, which has got everything in it, which, it's cool for quick getting to some sounds and demoing stuff. But when it comes to actually tracking, I'm plugging in.
Nice.
Yep.
There you go. Andre, cool. Thanks again, my brother. Appreciate you, buddy.
Absolutely. You guys. Thanks.
All right, take care.
Go check him out at Andre Comeau Music on Instagram and his artist page. Check it out. Download. Get the singles. Buy the albums. Let's get behind this guy. Thanks, Andre.
Yeah.
All right, man. That was cool. He was cool as hell.
Yep. Yeah, it's cool.
I can't imagine how difficult coming out of the real world and And the fame that came with that, and being so well known by his face and stuff, to dealing with going back to a regular kind of life, going back to working the jobs that he had to work, waiting tables and menial labor and things like that. That had to have been so surreal and crushing in so many ways, man. I can't.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it's humbling in a lot of ways. I mean, in my own way, I kind of went through that after playing with Halford. It's like, yeah, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, back to teaching guitar. But
it's like being the greatest DJ ever and not making a whole lot of money.
Except for something like that, he was seen a lot more than I was playing with a big name guy, but not seen like that because the real world was everywhere at that time.
Everywhere.
Yeah. That's massive exposure.
Yeah. So, we should have asked him if they were actually going to do the recap or they're going to do the reunion that he was talking about.
Yeah, that's what he said. They're doing it.
Yeah. So I wonder when that's going to take place.
And
COVID's been a bitch.
2022, because it's 30 years, it'd be 22. He said 92, right? So that would be coming up next year. That's why he wants to get his release out, and that makes sense. Release everything, get the singles going, and then drop it right by the time the anniversary comes out. It's good marketing move, clearly.
Absolutely, man. So we had some really disappointing news hit us today, Robbie.
What's that?
So the San Angelo area, which I reside, little tiny town in the middle of nowhere, West Central Texas, has the highest infection, hospitalization, and death rate in all of Texas.
What are you guys doing wrong? You guys getting together? It seems like you wouldn't even be near each other in that town, or maybe you're all just hanging out together.
Yeah, we're also extremely one of the first cities to the border, so we're getting a lot of influx coming through. So yeah, so pretty deflating to know that we're probably going backwards here on as far as the mandates go, and as much as the governor is, anti-mandates, masks, and all that fun stuff for Texas, which, whether I agree or disagree, doesn't really matter. It looks like our city's going to go backwards, and it sucks. So hopefully things clear up soon, man, because I want to start bringing some more music someday to the new golf course that I and Patrick just purchased today.
Nice.
Right? I saw Suzanne Quain in the comments earlier saying y'all like to play golf. Well, if you do, you've got to come to our golf course. We'll get Robbie out there playing sooner or later.
So golf course and rock and roll or country music or whatever it might be.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have live music out there and bring in some bands and some smaller shows and some big shows and see what we can do with it. But I got to learn how to play golf. You got to know how to play golf if you own a golf course, right?
Yes, you do.
See Patrick and I out there trying to kill each other with the clubs because neither one of us can hit very good.
Well, you should be experts pretty soon.
Right? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. All right, man. Let's wrap it up. To everybody who supported us again tonight, we love each and every one of you as always. Hope to see you all next week. And until then, peace out.